In this next section, this is the numbers part, and this is the part that I dread the most. I love numbers. I love spreadsheets. Jasmine's looking at me like, what are you, crazy? She's like, I know you like this. Let me explain. I love numbers, modeling, tracking, all that stuff. I'm really, really nerdy, right? But the hard part is, it's really difficult, I think, to teach this in a group setting. How do you take spreadsheets and formulas and stuff like that and boil it down? I'm going to do the best I can to explain that to you. Lisa's going to come back up in a second. She's getting mic'd up. And I want to walk you through a couple different things. Backstory. How do we set our goals? A lot of times agents just kind of pull a number from the sky and they say, okay, I want to make 100 grand this year. So great. How are you going to do that? I'm going to sell a lot of houses. Awesome. Love the enthusiasm. How are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to meet people, open houses. Okay, great. But how much do you need to sell? What volume in real estate do you need to sell to be able to earn 100 grand? And that, at the end of the day, is the million-dollar question. So I want to help you with calculating that today. The binder spells it out pretty well, I think. What we're going to do is we're going to hop over to the binder, kind of like the PDF version of it, and try to walk you through step by step. I promise it'll be quick. I can't promise painless because it is math. But also we are here to help you after with the calculations and coming up with your own numbers. Fire away.
Okay, so we're going to start with the income calculator. That's pretty simple. You first of all, when you're deciding how much you want to make next year, you have to know how much you need to make to break even. So that's essentially what this calculation is. So this would be, and if you aren't able to get exact numbers in there now, that's fine. You can make a guess and then go back and fine tune later. This is going to be, this first number is your living expenses, your car expenses, marketing, anything that you need to pay out throughout the year, totaled up. So all of your expenses. So we're going to find out what do you need to make to break even. And then from there, that makes it a little bit easier to figure out what do you want to make on top of that. That's going to go into your pocket, to your future investments, to your savings account, vacation, whatever you need. So think of that number now, and again, if you're rounding up, that's fine, or you're doing a rough per month thing, put that in there. So now the helpful formula that Lou has so kindly detailed out is your annual expenses divided by 100% minus the tax bracket you fall into. So we're going to use this example that your total annual expenses are $45,000. And again, your numbers are different, that's fine. You have this example, so if you need to make a note when you go back later on and adjust, please do so. And we're going to say that your tax bracket is 25%. So you're going to lead us to $45,000, your total expenses, divided by 75%, which is that difference. And that would be $60,000. So that's how much money you need to make to break even after your expenses and after your taxes are paid. And it's important to remember that taxes are a part of life, even though Ted's going to help you avoid most of them. So now you have that number on the bottom. That's how much you absolutely have to make to just pay your expenses. And now try to think about how much do you really want to make on top of that. So starting, it asked, what is your income last year? So this is a helpful comparative point. So even if you don't remember exactly or you have a rough idea, hide your paper, nobody judges. And again, we can help you with this. But write down your general income for last year, what your expenses for this coming year are going to be, and now evaluate where do you really want to fall. And that's going to be really helpful as you formulate your business plan, because ultimately we have to figure out what do you actually need to do to meet your goals. And this is the nitty-gritty of it. It's not as fun, but you know what? It's a really important piece of today.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there are kind of two big things to focus on there. One, what's your break-even number? And I talk to a lot of people who are newer agents or who are thinking about becoming agents, and they ask exactly that. How much money am I going to make my first year, and how do I plan for that? It all begins with figuring out what your annual expenses are and then what you need to make. Then we can back into the volume you need to sell in order to make that number and float, basically, or more. And then the second part of that is, what's your goal? Like, how much do you want to earn? And maybe that's more for people that have been in it for 2, 3, 4 years. I think everybody needs to have that number. But if you're an agent in production, you're already selling, 8 million, 5, 8, 10 million, whatever, you likely are exceeding your annual expenses. So then just think about, how much money do I want to make? Is it 100,000, 200,000? And you're going to write that number down here.